The bell above my door rings at 11:43 on a Tuesday morning, and something about the sound feels different. I look up from the inventory sheet I have been working on since 7. 3 men walk in. The one in front is tall, dressed in a charcoal coat that costs more than everything on my shelves combined. He moves through my shop the way people move through spaces they have already decided belong to them, slowly, without asking permission, picking things up and setting them down again. I watch him from behind the counter. I keep my face neutral. This is something my father taught me early. Let people show you who they are before you show them who you are. The man moves to my display of hand-woven baskets and carved wooden pieces. Items I sourced directly from artisans, items with real value. He doesn't ask about any of them. He simply selects, stacking choices like a man building a bill he has already decided on. Then he says something to the 2 men behind him. Fast, sharp, clipped at the edges. Jeolla dialect, southwestern Korea, rural, old-fashioned enough that most people under 50 wouldn't catch the full meaning. I catch every word. He says, she won't know the value, we'll offer half. If she pushes back, we remind her what happens to small businesses with code violations. My grip tightens under the counter. I keep smiling. I stay quiet and let him keep going. He moves through the shop with his hands in his pockets, nodding at things he wants his men to add to the pile. Every so often, he says something in that same dialect. Quick instructions, small observations, none of it meant for me. One of his men mutters back, "She looks confused. This will be quick." The other one laughs under his breath. I have been running this shop for 6 years. Before that, I spent 4 years in Gwangju, studying textile trade and cultural heritage preservation at a university that placed me with a host family in the countryside. An elderly couple who spoke nothing but their regional dialect at home and taught me it without ever meaning to, simply by including me at their dinner table every evening for 4 years. I understand every syllable this man is saying. I understand the contempt underneath it too. He brings his selections to the counter. 14 pieces. I know exactly what each one is worth because I negotiated directly with the people who made them. He names a price. It is not even close to half of what I paid wholesale, let alone what the pieces are worth at fair retail. His men stand slightly behind him with the relaxed posture of people who have watched this work before. I look at the number he wrote on his phone screen and I nod slowly, like I am considering it. I take my time. I look at the pieces laid out on my counter. I look at his phone screen with the number on it. I look at his face, which carries the particular patience of a man who has never once been told no and is simply waiting for the formality to finish. Then I look past him. 2 men by the door. One near the shelves on the right. All 3 dressed the same way, expensive, dark, completely still. Not shopping. Watching. This is not a rude customer who wandered in off the street. This is someone who came with a plan and brought people to enforce it. The coat, the security detail, the way the room around him seems to tighten slightly, like even the air is paying attention. I have heard a name in this neighborhood over the past year, spoken carefully by the other shop owners on this block whenever the topic of the empty lot 2 doors down comes up. Spoken the way you speak a name you would rather not say at all. I should accept the number. Wrap his items. Let him leave. That is the sensible thing. My father did not raise me to be sensible when sensible means accepting someone's boot on your neck and calling it a fair deal. I ask, is that your final offer? He nods, watching me the way you watch something predictable. I look back at him steadily. Then I open my mouth. I answer him in his own dialect. Not haltingly. Not with an accent that signals I learned it from a book. Fluently, naturally, with the particular rhythm of the Jeolla countryside that his elderly grandparents would have recognized immediately. I say, or perhaps we should discuss the part about code violations first. The room stops. His 2 men near the door go completely still. The one by the shelves straightens slowly. The man in front of me, whose expression has not moved once since he walked in, blinks once. Just once. Then I do what I have been waiting to do since he walked through my door. I repeat his exact words back to him. Every instruction he gave his men. The part about offering half. The part about small businesses and code violations. The observation that this would be quick. Word for word. in his dialect. I watched the realization move through him like weather. First in his eyes, then in the slight adjustment of his jaw, then in the way his shoulders settle into a different posture entirely. He knows now. I heard everything from the moment he walked in. He looks at me for a long moment. Then he gestures once with 2 fingers, and without a word his men step outside. We are alone. The shop feels different with just the 2 of us in it. Smaller, more honest. He looks at me with something that might be irritation, and might be something else entirely. Not embarrassment. I don't think this man embarrasses easily. More like the look of a person who has picked up an object expecting one weight and found it is much heavier. You understand more than you should, he says. He says it in Korean, standard dialect now, like we are moving into different territory. And you assume too much, I reply, same language, same register. He studies me for a moment, then he says his name, Hyun-Soo Kang. I keep my expression still, but I feel the name land. I have heard it before, not in a newspaper, not in a business directory. I heard it from Nadia, who owns the alterations shop 2 blocks east of me, spoken in a low voice after a property on her street changed hands, for reasons nobody could cleanly explain. I heard it from old Mr. Ose, who has run the import goods shop on the corner for 20 years, the evening he told me to be careful about who I let walk through my door. Hyun-Soo Kang is not a businessman who got rude. He is something more complicated than that. And he is standing in the middle of my shop, looking at me like he is revising something he thought he already understood. He doesn't apologize. I don't expect him to. Men like this don't arrive at apology from shame. If they get there at all, it's from a different direction entirely. What he does instead is lean against the counter very slightly and look at me with his head tilted, the way a person looks when they are deciding how much of the truth to show. Most people would have stayed quiet, he says. It is not a compliment. It is a border. He is showing me where the line is between what he expected and what I did, and the fact that he is noting it means the line matters to him. Then he puts a different number on his phone screen and slides it toward me. Still not fair, still not close to what the pieces are worth. But the number is higher than before, and the energy behind it is different. The first offer was dismissal. This one is a test. He wants to see if I will take the easier version of the same bad deal, just because it has better packaging. I look at the number for exactly as long as it deserves. Then I push the phone back. Still no, I say. Something shifts in the room again. Not danger, at least not yet. Something more like attention. Like I've just answered a question he didn't know he was asking. His men are still outside. I can see 2 of them through the front glass, standing with their backs to the window, facing the street. I hold his gaze and wait. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't make a gesture toward the door. What he does is stand up straight and look at me with an expression that I cannot read cleanly. Part assessment, part something I will only understand later. You're either very brave, he says slowly, or very foolish. Or just not desperate, I say. He is quiet for a moment. Then something happens that I am not prepared for. He almost smiles, not warmly, not with generosity. But there's a small, involuntary shift at the corner of his mouth that tells me I have said something that landed differently than he expected. In a room where he clearly controls almost everything, the fact that he couldn't control that reaction means something. I don't move. I don't soften. I keep my hands flat on the counter and my chin level, and I wait for whatever comes next. He looks around the shop slowly, like he is seeing it differently now. Then he asks a question that has nothing to do with the price of hand-woven baskets. How long have you owned this place? I tell him, 6 years. Before that, it was my father's. He opened it 23 years ago, when this block was mostly empty lots and low rent and nobody was paying attention. Hyun-Soo listens to this with the particular stillness of someone who is not listening casually. He nods once, not a social nod, a confirming one. The kind you make when information is matching up with something you already have. I didn't come in here for these, he says, gesturing at the pieces on the counter. I wait. I came because of the land this building sits on. He says it plainly, without the cruelty of the earlier approach, and without warmth either. Just fact. The items, the low offer, the dialect. All of it was a way of measuring me before he got to the real conversation. He wants the property, not just mine. The entire block, or a portion of it, tied to a development plan I have never been included in. My building sits at a corner that makes the rest of the lots on this stretch more valuable if it is part of the package. I have received 2 letters from a development company in the past year. I didn't connect them to a name, I connect them now. And the test? I ask. I needed to know what kind of person I was dealing with, he says. I look at him steadily. And? He doesn't answer that directly. But he doesn't leave either. He lays it out without pretending it is anything other than what it is. Sell the property, accept the number his company has on offer, a number that is fair by some measures and deeply unfair by others, because fair market value does not account for 23 years of my father's labor or 6 years of mine, or the fact that this shop is the reason our family didn't lose everything when my father got sick. If I don't sell, he says, there will be complications. He doesn't itemize them. He doesn't need to. His presence in my shop with 3 men outside and a name that makes other shopkeepers lower their voices is its own itemization. I listen to all of it, then I say, no. He looks at me. This place is all I have, I tell him. Not as a plea, as information. I want him to understand exactly what he is asking me to give up, and exactly how certain my answer is. The air between us holds for a moment. He leaves without threatening me again. His men follow. I stand behind my counter until the black car at the curb pulls away. Then I sit down on the stool I keep behind the register, put my hands on my knees, and breathe. That night, I start digging. I go through every document I can find. My father was methodical. He kept paper records of everything: property filings, correspondence, business licenses going back to the beginning. 3 hours into searching the boxes I store in the back room, I find a folder I have never opened. Inside is a chain of correspondence between my father and a Korean trading company. Letters spanning 8 years, a partnership agreement, and at the end of the chain, a legal dispute. The trading company accused my father of breach of contract, of stealing proprietary sourcing information and selling it to a competitor. The case was settled quietly. My father never told me about it. I read the name of the trading company 3 times before it connects. Kang Family Trading Group. I sit on the floor of my back room with documents spread around me and the pieces assembling slowly into something I'm not ready for. Hyun Soo Kang did not come to my shop because of a development plan. He came because of my father. I go to him. I find the address of his company building from the business registration documents in my father's folder, and I walk in the next morning with a folder under my arm and the particular calm that comes when fear has been replaced by something more useful. His people try to turn me away at reception. I ask them to tell him that the shopkeeper who knows his dialect is in the lobby. I wait. He comes down himself, which tells me something. We sit in a meeting room on the 4th floor. He looks at the folder. I ask him directly, "Why are you really targeting my shop?" He is quiet for longer than I expect. Then he says it. Someone who owned that property betrayed his family, gave their trade secrets to a rival, cost his father years of legal battles and a significant portion of the business he had built. His father never recovered from it financially or otherwise. I've been collecting those properties for 4 years, he says. Yours is the last one. The room is very cold. The person you believe did that, I say carefully, was my father. He looks at me. Yes, he says. I open the folder. The documents are 20 years old, but they are clear. My father's original correspondence shows he flagged irregularities in the trading company's sourcing records and reported them internally to a senior partner named Woo Tae-kyung. What came after was not an investigation. What came after was a counter-accusation against my father, timed precisely to bury the original report. Woo Tae-kyung, I show Hyun-soo, was the man who signed the legal complaint against my father. Woo Tae-kyung is also the man who, according to the records in the same folder, subsequently left Kang Family Trading with 3 clients, 2 proprietary supplier contracts, and a consulting arrangement with the very competitor my father was accused of feeding. My father didn't betray Hyun-soo's family. He was used as the cover story for the man who actually did. I watch Hyun-soo read. I watch him go back to the beginning and read it again. I watch his face do the slow, difficult work of a person dismantling something they have built their understanding of the world on. He sets the documents down. For a long time he says nothing. "Woo Tae-kyung," he says finally. His voice is flat and very quiet. "He still runs a firm in this city," I say. "I checked this morning." He doesn't react the way I expect. There is no explosion, no immediate call to his people. He sits in the meeting room with my documents in front of him, and he is very still for a long time. And I understand that what I am watching is not a man suppressing anger, but a man doing something harder, revising. He built 4 years of strategy on a story. He acquired properties, applied pressure, used his resources and his reputation to systematically dismantle what he believed was the legacy of someone who had wronged his family. And the foundation of all of it was a lie told by a man he trusted. He asks me questions. Careful ones. He wants to understand the document chain completely, wants to know where each piece came from, wants to find the gaps in my evidence if there are any. There aren't. I spent the night making sure. By the time we have been through the folder twice, his assistant has knocked on the door 3 times. He hasn't answered once. "I need to verify this independently," he says. "I expected you would," I say. "I made you a copy." I slide the second folder across the table. He looks at it, then at me. "Why bring this to me at all?" he asks. "You could have used it to protect yourself and said nothing else." "Because your father deserved to know the truth too," I say. "Even if he's gone." He verifies everything within 5 days. His people are thorough in a way that mine could never be. They have access to records I couldn't reach, can cross-reference sources I didn't know existed. What they find doesn't just confirm my documents, it adds to them. Woo Tae-kyung had done this before. My father was not the first person he had positioned as a scapegoat. There were 2 other cases, earlier smaller, involving people who had less ability to defend themselves than my father had. Hyun-soo's response is not a confrontation at a warehouse. It is not the kind of violence his reputation might suggest. It is methodical, and it is devastating, and it is entirely legal. Financial exposure through a forensic audit trail submitted to 3 regulatory bodies simultaneously. Evidence of the original fraud packaged and delivered to every major business partner Woo Tae-kyung currently holds. A quiet withdrawal of the credit arrangements that keep his firm's cash flows stable. Arranged through connections that leave no obvious fingerprints. Woo Tae-kyung's company begins collapsing on a Wednesday. By Friday, it is in the kind of trouble that does not recover. I hear about it from Nadia, who heard it from someone else, the way news moves on this street, in pieces, through doorways, between people who have learned to pay attention. He comes back to my shop on a Saturday morning. No men outside, no car at the curb that I can see. Just him, in a coat that is still expensive, but somehow less armored looking than the first time, standing in front of my counter with nothing in his hands. I let him in. He stands in the middle of the shop and looks around at it the way he looked at the documents in that meeting room, like someone learning to see something accurately for the first time. "I came here to take something tied to my past," he says. "I was certain I knew what that past was." He pauses. "I was wrong about most of it." I lean against the counter. "The shop is still not for sale," I say. Something moves across his face, close enough to a real smile that I decide to count it. "I know," he says. He places a card on my counter, not his name this time, but a contact at the city planning office, someone who can help me understand the development pressures on this block and how to protect my position in them going forward. Then he nods once and walks toward the door. "You didn't destroy it," I say before he reaches it. "You helped me protect it." He stops, doesn't turn around immediately. "Your father raised someone worth knowing," he says quietly. Then, he leaves. I stand in my shop, the one my father opened 23 years ago, the one I have run for 6 of my own. And I look at the card on my counter, and the morning light coming through the front window. He thought speaking a language I understood would make me powerless. It was the reason everything he believed began to fall apart,